Everybody, I'm back with another build. This is a dragon build for a birthday present for Amber. Amber, you're getting a birthday present. Amber sent through some pictures to one of her uncles, and he contacted me and said, can we do a birthday present? So we've picked the dragon. The dragon is from Solgood Creations, and you can find it on my mini factory. I really like Solgood. The model was very well cut. It's a great model. It's got heaps of detail, and so I printed it over several hours and a bunch of build plates, and then this is sticking it together and cleaning up. I had a little bit of clean up on some of the joins, and that was about it. A couple of the pegs needed just a bit cleaning back, and other than that it went together pretty good. And did the dragon and the rock separately because of wanting to not have to fiddle with holding everything together while I was painting it all, and then milli putted all of the slight holes that were at any of the places where it didn't join as well as I wanted it joined, and put the milli putt on, and then used a silicone tool to push it in, and then some water on a brush and places to smooth it down. Now I knew that I wanted to do, because it's a blue dragon with orange belly, I wanted to do lava coming out of the rock face, so I milli putted some fake lava. Well, the whole thing's fake. Milli putted some lava and put it down and got that into place and let it dry, so that when I do the object source lighting on the belly of the dragon, it makes a bit of sense because there's lava below it and makes the base a little bit interesting. But I only needed the base to present the OSL for the dragon's belly. The base is not the focal point of the whole piece, and so I made sure that the colours on the base, apart from the fact that volcanic rock's usually black anyway, the base is a lot more muted tones than the dragon is, because I wanted the dragon to be the focal point, because that was the whole of the ask for the birthday present. As far as I know, Amber doesn't know about this and still doesn't know, other than at the beginning of this video I said, hey, it's your birthday present. So at this point in time we were just getting it together and trying to get it done for the birthday. And whenever I'm milli putting, whatever's left, roses get made out of. So I then got a dark blue and shot that through the airbrush onto the dragon, because it's the quickest way to get it done. Mostly I got it on and got it around the dragon, but still tried to make sure that I was paid attention to light direction. The images that I've seen had the light. The two images that I had of the dragons had really dark blue with light blue at the back and orange on the belly, and so I was trying to do that and interpret it. It was a bit tricky doing this dragon with feathered wings, because neither of the dragons in the picture have the feathered wings, so trying to extrapolate how I was going to interpret the drawings and try the pictures, reference pictures, and then try to get this. Now you can see that in the middle of this a wing fell off. That was unfortunate, but I finished spraying the basic blue and then glued it back on, and then made sure that I glued it back on, had a look where the glue had not adhered, gave it a little bit more of the sand, and then put it back on. I also shot it with some lighter blues, and again paying attention to the direction in which I shot it from, so that the dark blues, I shot the dark blues from the bottom coming up under the wings and under the arms and armpits and legs and things, but I shot all of the light blues only from the top to preserve the highlighting and give me a basis for with the skin tones that I don't have to then paint with a brush. Again, this is where I discovered that I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, because the wings weren't leathery wings like a regular dragon, because they were feathers. I had to try and figure out how to do the transition of the wings, still keep them in keeping with the idea of the pictures that we got presented with. And thank you, Karl, that was very sneaky of you to be able to get those pictures out of her without her knowing. And then I went and got a lot of reference of bird wings and people that have painted bird wings for competitions and won. Unfortunately, nobody's done blue wings, so that was a bit tricky, but I was able to get the idea. So the outside of the wings got done with a very light blue, and then transitioning down, darkening the blues up across the spread of the wing. And underneath I did actually do a mauvey blue on trying to get a shadowy blue in on the underside of the wing, just into the same place where that light blue is on the top of the wing, coming down about the same distance. It didn't end up liking it as much, and I did wash over the top of it when I started doing the fading in on the wings with the blue wash that I use a little bit later. And so I changed the colour back. So here's the mauvey blue, but I thought it was too mauve when I did it, and so I made sure when I washed it that I put the blue back into it, and it came up as quite a nice blue when it was finished. So then I got a dark blue ink. I got a dark blue, a very inky blue, and did the tail feather, are they pinions? Don't know. The ones that stuck out the bottom the most, did them dark, very much like that, and was very tempted to paint everything that dark blue, but again, looking at the reference and having a look at the way that people have done wings that have looked really good, I then curbed my enthusiasm, painted the nails blue, the same dark blue, to get an idea of how things were going to start running. And at this point in time I still had no idea whether the wings were going to turn out well or whether I was going to be starting again and going for them. And so that's where I got up to with all of that, with the blues. As you can see, the photos aren't the same as actual reality, because the video is more accurate to how it looks. Then painted while I still thought about the wings, I painted the carapace that's on the deck running down his throat and across his belly. Now I know this is all going to get covered up, or I hope it'll all get covered up in OSL, but I still wanted to put the detail in and do it and paint it and have it as a finished paint job before I started doing the OSL, because I wasn't exactly sure whether I was going to try and airbrush the OSL on, or whether I wanted to dry brush the OSL on. Freaked myself out and decided that after I had painted it all and got it all lovely looking, I did not want to chance the airbrush going south, and felt that I might have a little bit more control with the dry brush. So in the end I did actually dry brush all of the colours over, and a lot of this got covered up by the lavery colours, but I was still glad to have put the effort in and done him to finished before I mucked around with the light source. It also meant that when I started to feather the light source in, it wasn't, I didn't have to worry about where I'd finished and where I'd started, because the whole model was painted prior to doing it. After I painted the creamy colour down his belly, I put a Griff Charger Grey colour wash over the top to just define the up in the recesses of his chitin armour. Then I got a inky wash. I think it might be Gulliman. I think it's the one that they use for the Space Marines, the Ultramarine sort of, but the washy version. And then just did a controlled wash over the wings. I ended up doing a couple of coats on the flight feathers, backing that off as I went. So I did it, and then as I went over it, each time when I went over, I came a little bit closer to the tip so that it faded back into the wings a little bit more. And each time that I did something, I had a look at the reference photos, and when I came back, I went back and then touched up, like doing the little tips on these feathers that are in between rather than doing the whole feather, to try and get a transition like you might get if you'd airbrushed it, but the feathers don't really lend themselves to the airbrushiness. This might be the Gulliman blue, actually. Sorry, I might have given you a bum steer on the first blue, but it might have just been the paint but watered it down way heaps. And then I used the same blue as I used in the middle on the top of the wings, because again I'm trying to preserve the idea that he's lit from the top and he's very light, and there's shadow under his rings, but it's being negated by the lava that's underneath him. So that's how the wings came out, with just their blue on the shades on them, and then I dry brushed over the top. The underside got done with a heavier grey, and the light side above the wings I did with a off-white deck tan. So the wings came up excellent. At this stage I actually thought I might have done this correctly and I would be able to pull this model off, because it's a great model, and I was very afraid that I was going to not do it justice and it was going to be just not good. Fear and trepidation the whole way through. So I came in with some lighter grey and did some stripes down on the chitin and put some detail into the feet, so on all of the on his palms and the underside of his feet. And at this point in the photos I noticed that after all of that I had actually made a mistake and touched the wing with a bit of paint on my glove, so I had to go back and fix that up and do that process all over again. So the wing got treated with its base colour by a brush, and then I re-dry brushed it later when I was doing a little bit more dry brushing again. So I started on the details on the face. This was doing the mouth and the skin around his mouth. Wasn't sure exactly what colours the mouth of a blue dragon should be. I was trying to keep it bluey, but I also wanted the pink, so I ended up with a blue-pink combination, flesh tone and a blue that made sort of a grey with a little bit of a orangey pinky hue to it. And then I lightened it back and forth between the two colours and made transitions inside the mouth. You can't really see it in the photos, but Amber will be able to have a look and see that her mouth's painted lovely. Then it was the start of putting some detail into all of the dragon scales. So I started at the neck and went down. I started with every scale that I could see, putting a couple of stripes along to define the edges, and then I started dotting in on all the hands and all the skin. On some of the skin there is actually really fine scales, and so I dotted them as well. And then when I got to the face, I followed the ridge lines on the face and back up into his hairy flowy out that bits, and also did the individual scales that are along his mouth and above his eye ridges and below his eye on that. This was very, very long. It took, well, I don't know, I think it was a whole video, so that's 4 hours to do all of the detail back and forth for the time that I did it. And but every single dot that went on made me more excited about the look. It really started to come together at this stage, considering that I'd airbrushed colours and that I'd dry brushed some light colour over the top just to define the things, and all of the bits and pieces that had been done, everything from here that went on, every dot that went on, improved the detail, being able to see the detail. I was very nervous about having done all of this without an actual wash to pick out some of the recessed bits, but once I started dotting and putting all of that detail in, I was happy enough with just the shadows and the highlights that I'd done with the airbrush. And so this is him coming together. I switched from the dragon to the base to give the dragon some dry time. A lot of the times when I was doing this, I actually force-dried the dragon with the heat gun as well. The base I did dry brushing over the top of the black that I'd just done with the rattle can, being aware of light direction again. So the back of the base has a brown and black dry brush, and the front of the base has several greys getting progressively lighter in the greys, dry brushed again, trying to give me the idea of which way the rocks were facing and what might be lit up and what might not be lit up. And then I began the process of doing the lava. So I started with just the cream, the same cream that I'd used on the belly of the dragon, and put that into, painted the lava bit that's flowing out and gave myself a head start on where the lava might be leaking out from underneath. So this is that. Once I'd done that, I did it in Scarlet Red. I started with Scarlet by Vallejo and then got a bright orange, and I mixed the scarlet and the bright orange, and then I used the bright orange by itself, and then I used a little bit of yellow with the bright orange, but still mostly bright orange, and then used a little bit of yellow by itself, and put each time doing it a little bit thinner on the larva bit, and trying to pick out different places in the larva so that I've got the variations in the colours, and it looks a little bit more larva-y and a little bit more like it should. I did the yellow right through till where I started adding white, but at this stage I'd been going for quite a while, and I was doing wet on wet on wet on wet on wet, and it started to be dragging back through some of the colours, so I thought I'd better put it aside and give it an overnight dry. Continued on with the dotting and the doing of the dragon, and I went outside and sprayed it with clear before I started the silver. And so all the silver armour was just a very long job. Again, there's lots of the detail in this model is beautiful. Thank you, Sergey, for the model. You can still get this. It was part of a Kickstarter frontier that they did, but the model is available on the Solgood on my mini factory, and they feed poor people, not for people. They feed poor people with their some of the money that they raise from these things, so people that are in need and people in war-torn places. And so I love supporting them where I can, and I would say to you that if you want to buy models, they make some good models. You can become a Patreon on my mini factory if you want to, and pay for their help, join their great nourisher, and each month money goes towards helping people that need food. And they've got some great pictures of the food bus going around and feeding people, so I love them. But the model is beautiful. There is so much detail. You could be tempted to say pain in the bum with all of the angles that you got to do around this wing, but when it's finished, just beautiful, beautiful. All of the armour has actually got is it filigree? It's like Norse patterns in amongst it also, and I was also not sure about whether I wanted to do a wash on the armour as well before I started doing the object source lighting, but I decided to go against it. I'm happy for it to be super shiny. It's not a grimdark future, and so I left it as it was and just started doing the object source lighting. So I got a torch and took a photo of where the light comes up to try and give myself an idea of how much of the wings was going to need to be lit up and what things were going to be the most lit up. It's pretty straightforward. You know, the things that are facing towards the larva are going to be light and lit up, and the bits that are not facing towards the armour. I suppose the trickiest thing was his claws and his hands, because trying to get in under the pads of his fingers and around his wrist just enough to do that without it going around to the back side of his hand was a bit tricky. I made a bunch of mistakes in amongst the doings all and had to correct myself and go back over. So I started with red, I then put on orange, I then used a fluoro orange, and then I started to do yellow and lightened up the yellow, and I started with a big dry brush and ended up with a very small dry brush, and then for the little bit of cream that I used for the white parts, I actually just used a detail brush from Army Painter, so that size, and I put some extra red glow onto the tail, which after I'd done it, I decided was too much red, and I do fix that. And when I had finished what I thought was finished, I took it up, showed my wife, said, "What do you reckon?" Got a bit wigged out that there wasn't enough contrast. Since I'd already gone to white, the lightest ones could be only as light as they were, so I put the contrast back in to try and, funnily enough, to make the whites seem whiter by putting some red back in. I also noticed that I had, in my exuberance, done the entirety of the neck, and some of his neck is pointing upwards, not downwards, so I put the cream back on it and then just put some red back on. After I was happy with the OSL, I went around and painted the base, but then I had a look at the tail and thought I'd done too much, so just before I finished I did some blue, and then when it was all done and dry the next day, I did cut some felt out, and I put the felt on the bottom, and it's done. So here is your spin around. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to wish Amber a happy birthday, so please sing along with me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Amber. And I hope your dragon is wonderful. Happy birthday to you. Alright, thanks for that. That's my personal part of the moment. So here's just turning him around on my fantastic high-tech Lazy Susan turnaround table. And as you can see, the OSL worked pretty good, and when he gets onto the side for the drawing that we had to, the reference that I had to go off, it really, I think it looks like the drawing enough, and I'm very, very happy with it. It comes up great in the photos, and I was very happy with the way that it photographs and looks. And so this is just all your flyovers, show you some detail. There's a couple of stills yet to go when we finish, but that's the process. So I hope you've really, really enjoyed, or just even really enjoyed, watching this. Amber, I hope you get a kick out of it. We're going to try and work out, Karl's going to work out how he can get it in the mail to you, and we'll get it sent up. So even though today is your birthday, the only thing we can give you today is the YouTube video and the happy birthday, and you'll have to wait and get excited about the arrival of your birthday gift. So I am thrilled with the way that this came out. I'm really happy about the dragon. The OSL I'm new to. I think it's turned out okay. I think it is how it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, most of the references that I was able to find for the object source lighting were people. None, I didn't find any dragon OSL that I could find in images. There's a lot of Space Marines and stuff, and it was a little bit tricky to try and work out how I might have interpreted that from onto a snaky body and feathers, as opposed to hard militarium armour from the Warhammer universe. So there you go, and that's it. A few more stills. I've got more projects to come. I think the next thing that will be happening is another petrol station for my sister-in-law's grandchildren. Does that make me a great uncle? Not sure. Or I might be a cousin once removed. Not sure what that makes me, but that'll be coming. So I will do a video of that, similar to the ones that few petrol stations that I've made before. After that, there was also a card for Amber's birthday. Now that I've got a dragon to take a photo of, I tried to get the picture similar to the reference that she gave us. So happy birthday, Amber. Here's your card. You'll get that when you get your dragon. And thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed my diatribe as we've listened, and I will see you the next time I make a video.